Okay, so quick update. In my first video, I think I said I was going to be capturing mistakes too, so that the people that watch this don't make the same ones. Maybe you could save some time, energy, and money. I certainly learned quite a bit from the videos that I watched. So here's a screw up. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the primer I got was latex, and I'm using Alkyd. They're both Rust-Oleum products, but one's latex, one's Alkyd. I didn't notice until after I put it on, and I didn't think to look until after I put it on because I was just so eager to get something painted. So don't let your eagerness or your desire to stop looking at something that is, you know, looking worn, looking beat up, and you want to make it look new, but don't let that get the better of you. So I had to, what you're looking at here is, I went over and sanded it, which I was going to have to do anyway to primer, but I did it a little bit more on this. And the reason is, I mean, I'm putting triple thick high build on it. And the reason is, apparently latex doesn't freeze and expand at the same rate that oil-based or water-based primers and paints do. Would it made a difference? I don't know, but I'm doing all the work, so I don't want to take a chance. The other thing I did that I should have done a while ago is I removed the instruments, which came out pretty easy. They're just sealed in. Anywhere hardware or an instrument meets, you know, the fiberglass, that's an area where the paint can fail, and I would just rather have that done correctly than having anything start to peel, especially in the cockpit. Okay, so I'm going to vacuum up, and I'm going to paint the cabin house again. And when I'm done with that, then I will move on to the deck. Oh, before I do that, I need to sand down the high spots on the patch I did on the port side of the bow. I'll be doing that with my angle grinder. I'll start it with an angle grinder, see if it's too aggressive. It is. I'll just back it down to my sander. So I decided I'm going to start with the sander first at 220 grit. Instead of starting with the grinder. If it's not aggressive enough, I can always go up, versus if it's too aggressive, well, then I have to reglass. So we're going to start light first and see how that works. The nice thing about a sander is that I can control burning fiberglass. Alright, hopefully the phone doesn't fall out of my tripod here. Still not to touch. Okay, this is pretty flush all through here. There's a slight rise. I can live with that. This is flush all through here. It starts getting hot. Now this side is higher. Oop, look at that. Got a void there. All right. Well, I have to squirt some epoxy in there before. Look at that. And I found it. Okay. So a little bit of epoxy there, and some filler or fairing compound around the rest. and I'm gonna call that a repair. So it's not professional quality, but I think not bad for an amateur. And I think only a professional would be able to tell the difference, or somebody that had, you know, done this or spent a fair amount of time around boats. All right, time to vacuum. And whoa, look at that. One hell of a bumblebee. Okay. As you can see, this comes up pretty close to the chain plates, very close to the chain plates, where apparently, I mean, it makes sense. There's a lot of stress here, and the deck constantly being pulled up, so if water's going to leak, that's where it's going to happen. And my waste tank valve is there as well. So what I'm going to do is cut a line through here, straight down. I'm going to angle around this, come back, and then here, and then back up again. I use my angle grinder to do this, and the cutting blade I use is pretty aggressive, at least a fairly big line when you're doing it. So yeah, this is going to be challenging. You know what, screw it. I don't want to cut it out. I'm just going to drill the holes and throw in the penetrating epoxy, because I'm going to get too close to the cabin here. I'm going to end up cutting into it with the blade. I'm not going to be able to pivot around. Oh boy. All right. Well, unless I don't go that far under. All right. Back to the same plan. I'm probably going to have to do both. I'm going to put a board in there, and then on the edges I'll have to inject the penetrating epoxy. Okay. Well, so here we go. Alright, I don't know what that was, but it wasn't a good sound. I don't have the proper collar, I think, for that cutting blade for the grinder. I'm not going to take my chances. I'll walk out of here with one thumb less than I had when I walked in. So, drill time, and a lot of penetrating the box. Here we go. Okay, so that's what's coming out. It's damp. It's not nearly as wet as it was when I drilled the exploratory holes, which is good. It means it's drying out. But it still needs to be reinforced. And that's why we're doing the penetrating epoxy. Okay. I don't know if you can see the difference, but these are the wood shavings I'm getting out of the last row. So I got this out of every hole I drilled along the entire width of the side deck in the last row, which tells me that, don't fall down, tells me that this wood is not rotten that far back. So I'm confident that the rotten patch is isolated. Now it's time to eject some epoxy. Before I do that, I have a visitor. I'm not quite sure if you can see those paw prints. I'm hoping that's a cat, because they show up in the V-berth too. Can't imagine how a raccoon could get up here. Maybe a cat. I don't know. Oh well. Okay, found a couple of other soft spots on the deck. Well, it makes common sense. If my shroud is pulling the deck up on that side and allowing water in, it stands to reason it's going to happen on the starboard side as well. It did. Not quite as bad though. Not quite as bad as on the port side. And I also have it. Decided to check my backstay as well. Sure enough, it's the same issue here. So maybe probably won't get to paint today. I should be able to get another coat of primer on the deck house here, cabin house. I don't want to have to drill holes in a deck that I've just painted. I'm going to be using penetrating epoxy. I went with Total Boat. I bought it online. It's 2-to-1 ratio. So I'm mixing up twice as much resin here to half as much hardener here. We're going to mix it here. Now with my syringe, cut off the tip and widen up the opening here a little bit because I want to get as much resin in as possible. Hot life on this is about 20 minutes, so especially in this heat, so I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to get it in, under the deck before it begins to harden. It's not fully cured for 2 days. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, I have about 18 minutes to get the epoxy into where I need it to go before it begins to harden. I used 8 ounces of resin to, oh man, it's hot, I can feel it, 4 ounces of hardener, and stirred it for about 2 minutes to make sure that it was good and stirred up and mixed. So here we go. Well, kind of messed up a little bit. I should have known better too. I've used epoxy resin before on a different project, but that was with carbon fiber. And the pot life on that is much longer. In fact, it was slow setting resin. What I have here is hard, well, I'm not sure what the pot life on the hardener mixed with the resin is 20 minutes, which doesn't give you a lot of time. But I mixed, well, 8 ounces of resin, 4 ounces of hardener, 12 ounces, which is a fair amount of the stuff. It's not cheap. It's like $50 for, the quart set. And it got hot really fast and started smoking. And yeah, it had to happen to me before when I first started working with this stuff. I just forgot about it. I was using a plastic mixing cup, styrofoam, or I think you can use paper. I'm not sure, paper cup, but I'm gonna use metal. Also, I damn near squirted myself in the eye with backlash on it. That was stupid too. I should have had some eye protection on. I've got a visor back there, which is what I've been using. Don't mess around with this stuff. You get it in your eye. It's uber painful. Emergency room kind of stuff. It'll burn your skin too, so wear gloves. And that's not counting just if it heats up in sort of in terms of temperature. So be careful with it. We're gonna mix it up in this now and hopefully be a little more frugal with the rest. All right, I'm back. It's the next day, June 1st. Pretty warm outside, and I'm dressed like it's October. Working with fiberglass is, well, it's itchy to the skin. And I forgot about that yesterday. Well, I didn't forget, I just didn't think about it. I don't like those one-piece deals that you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, because when you sweat, it gets sticky. They stick to your skin and they start to tear, and it limits your mobility. So I just wore longer clothing today. So I'm going to check out, see how we did with the penetrating epoxy. There is the biggest patch. All right. So yesterday, when I stepped on this, I could actually feel a depression, and I'll tell you, that's really how I found the spot. I just assumed that my surveyor found it, or had been over it, sounded it, and decided that it was okay. So, let's see. That's better. Okay, there's a little bit of give, but not much. All right, let's check the other side. Okay, it's pretty solid. Now, let's sound it. Now, you can, the sound picks up that well over my camera's, or my phone's volume, but nice thwack. So hear the difference? Sounds bad, but it feels more steady. So I don't know what to make of that. I guess I'll do some research and find out if the injection method leaves you with that thumping sound. But it's more solid under my feet, which is, you know, a plus. And I still don't know if it's going to keep water out of any exposed cavities in there, but it's better than it was. So I guess I'm going to leave it like this, and in the fall I might go ahead and cut in and just replace the whole thing with a plywood board. I don't want to do that now because I want to get the wood in the water. So it might be extra work, I get it, but I'll address it again in several months, a few months.